Good morning, members of the Orange County Coast Keepers. My name is Marvin, and I'm here to inform you today about the Japanese tsunami debris field that is set to hit the west coast of the United States. Now, before we actually get into this topic, I want you to first imagine that you're walking down a road, a yellow brick road to be exact. Now, the sun is shining, birds are chirping, however, there's this weird and eerie breeze blowing. So you're walking down this road, and you hear a thud. And you look in front of you and you see that the wind has blown these two red shoes. Curiously, you go forward to investigate and bam, that's when it happens. That is when a house lands on top of your head. Now, this scenario might seem like it's grounded in fantasy, but the media makes it seem like this could actually happen today. Tony Barboza, a writer for the Los Angeles Times on February 29, 2012, wrote an article about the tsunami debris field that's set to hit the west coast. And this is the picture that is associated with his article. It's a picture of a Japanese house floating in the water. Now, when I first saw this article and when I first saw this picture, my initial reaction was, oh my gosh, houses are coming, what are we going to do? And I bet you some of you in the audience might have that similar reaction because you probably don't know too much about this tsunami debris field. And as members of the Orange County Coast Keepers, it's important and beneficial for you to know what's coming because for one thing, you have your monthly beach cleanups, and two, you're probably interested on how you can protect your local environment. So in this speech, I will be talking about the Japanese tsunami debris field set to hit the west coast of the United States. Specifically, I will talk about what's exactly in this debris field and how it's getting here. I will then talk about the environmental impact it will have on the west coast of the United States. And finally, I will talk about how you, the audience, can help. So you're probably wondering what exactly is in this debris field and how is it actually getting here? But before we actually get to that topic, let's make sure that everybody is on the same page when I talk about the tsunami that hit Japan on March 11, 2011. So, according to Guido Cervone, Assistant Professor of Geography and Geoinformation at George Mason University, there was an earthquake 70 kilometers off the coast of eastern Japan. Now, this earthquake had a magnitude of 9.0 and actually created waves that were 40 meters tall when it hit Japan. And it actually flooded the country several kilometers inland. Now, according to Tony Barboza, as previously cited earlier, when the waves receded back into the ocean, it took back with it houses, vehicles, appliances, buoys, lumber, and various shipping gear. Also, according to the National Oceanic Service, the Japanese government estimates that around 25 million tons of debris was created and was also sent into the ocean. However, a year or more than a year later today, little is known about what is exactly in this debris field, and little is known about how much of this debris field still exists because of the pathway that it takes to get to the United States. Now, this pathway spans much of the northern Pacific Ocean, and it is being carried by both wind currents and ocean currents, both of which can change randomly with those seasons or with random weather pattern changes. So according to Kim Murphy, writer for the Los Angeles Times, on February 28, 2012, she writes about how the debris is first supposed to hit Hawaii earlier in this year, and then in 2013, it's supposed to hit the northwestern part of the United States, which include Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. And then between 2014 and 2016, it's supposed to circle back and hit Hawaii again. So in actuality, this debris field isn't even supposed to hit the California coast. Also, according to the National Oceanic Service, an actual concentrated debris field no longer exists because of the wind and ocean currents causing either a dispersal in the debris or the sinking of the debris into the ocean. So, now that I've finished talking to you about the debris itself and how it's going to get here, now let's focus on the environmental impact the tsunami debris will have. Now, the big environmental scare was that the tsunami debris would be radioactive, but according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, none of the tsunami debris is radioactive for three reasons. The first reason being that the tsunami created debris all over the coast of Japan, and the radioactivity was just focused in on Fukushima. Now, the second reason was that the radioactive leaks in Fukushima, Japan, occurred weeks after the tsunami had already taken debris into the ocean. And the third final reason was that recently Japanese vessels that have been headed towards the U.S. Were taking radioactive reading levels of the ocean and found that there was no reason to be concerned. So the best case environmental scenario would be if the tsunami debris just washed up on our shores like regular marine debris, much like what you would see on your monthly beach cleanups. However, the worst case environmental scenario would be if big pieces of the tsunami debris still remain, because these big pieces could affect large ecosystems, such as sensitive shorelines along the west coast, or it could even damage the coral reefs by breaking off big chunks of the coral reef, or actually suffocating that living ecosystem. So now that I've finished talking about the environmental impacts that the tsunami debris will have on the west coast, you're probably wondering, what can I do? Luckily for us, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA for short, has given us a step-by-step procedure for us to follow so that we can help out. Now the first step is to develop clear objectives and methods. Now these objectives and methods must be done, must be agreed upon by a large group of people and by different organizations, so that the same methods and objectives can be used on different areas and different locations. This would help scientists because by using the same objectives and methods on different areas and different locations, it would make it easy for them to compare data. Now the second step would be to create a baseline data for the marine debris information. Now this data must be collected for an entire year and must be done well in advance of the expected arrival time of the tsunami debris. By doing this, it would help scientists because it would give them a baseline data of the normal amount of marine debris that we would get, and then if they would see a spike in that debris, then that would suggest that maybe that could be the tsunami debris' arrival. The third step would be to actually note down the type of marine debris that we're getting, because this would help us differentiate between regular marine debris and the tsunami debris, because around the time of arrival for the tsunami debris, we might see items that we don't normally get on a daily basis. Now, to collect all this information, NOAA has actually given us an application for our smartphones. And how this application works is that we would input all our information about a specific area and a specific time into the application. And then what the application would do then is it would combine and add up and sum up all this information to make a baseline data for scientists who study marine debris information. So, in this speech, I first showed you the Japanese house floating in the water. And at the beginning of the speech, you probably were scared or shocked, as I was when I first saw the picture. But hopefully now, by the end of this speech, you have a better understanding of the Japanese tsunami debris. Because first, in this speech, I talked about the debris itself and how basically it's not even going to hit California coastline. I've also talked about the environmental impact the tsunami debris will have on the west coast of the United States. And finally, I talked about what you, the audience, can do, in the steps that NOAA has given us, what you, the audience, can do to help out. So, even though we've discovered that a house or red shoes or any tsunami debris for that matter might not even turn up on SoCal shores, I hope by now you have a better understanding of what could be headed towards the U.S. within the next couple of years, and now you have a better understanding of what you can do to help. Thank you.